Hey everyone, and thanks for jumping back into the cryptoverse. Today we're going to talk about Bitcoin and the continued move that we've seen. So if you guys like the content, please subscribe to the channel, give the video a thumbs up, and also check out the Telegram channel, which you can find a link to in the description below. Let's go ahead and jump in. So Bitcoin over the last few weeks has been moving up pretty quickly, right? And then people naturally start to say, okay, well, we're immediately going to go to 20K. And of course, as we've always said, there's always short-term bubble risk, right? What does that mean? Well, it means we could go to 20K, of course. But I don't think it would be sustainable this early in the cycle. If you look at kind of these stepping stones that we've taken over, basically since April, we were range bound between, 8,600 and 10,000 for 84 days approximately. And during that time, the price, moved between about 15% or so. We then moved into the next band, which was essentially, in hindsight, of course, it looks like it was between 10,000 to 12,000. And we were in that regime for, well, so far, 84 days, which is exactly how long we were in the last one. And this one, you can see, was a 20% fluctuation here. Now, we've poked up into a new band. Now, the first thing we have to be, cautiously optimistic, right? It's always nice to see Bitcoin go higher and higher, but it's not. But you should always be, somewhat cautious because you don't want to get too far ahead of yourself, especially this early on in the market cycle. We still have a long ways to go, right? We still have months of testing the 20-week moving average during the cycle, assuming this is, the beginning of the bull market, which there's a good chance it is. And we could just be getting started, and there's no reason to necessarily think that we're about to, just explode upwards over the next month. I mean, yes, there's a chance, but there's also a good chance that we move sideways for a bit at key levels. You can see we move sideways here for over, almost 3 months. Between 8,600 and 10K. We moved sideways between 10K and 12K for 3 months approximately. And now we've briefly popped in to this 12K, above 12K regime. And one of the things that I've said before is I think, 14,000 will be what I would consider 14,000 to be a key level that we'll need to fight for a bit. And some of the main reasons, of course, if you look at the monthly time frame and look at monthly candles, you can see that 14K is the top of that monthly candle from December, and then also the top of the monthly candle in January of 2018. So in December of 2017, January of 2018, 13, 9, 14,000, approximately 14,000 was the top of that weekly candle. So you can see where we currently are. So I think that, there's a decent chance that ultimately speaking, we will spend, a decent amount of time moving sideways between 12 to 14K. Now, if we were to do something like that, then from here, if we were to go say out another 84 days or so, it would essentially put us at breaking through 14K in January of 2021 if this were the next level. Remember, this is just pure speculation. I use the risk levels to trade. I don't really use patterns typically speaking. I just use the risk levels, which of course are on the premium list at intothecryptoverse.com. You can find it here. You get access to weekly reports, weekly premium videos, the Telegram alerts channel, the Telegram chat room, and then the risk dashboard, which is what I use to trade. But when you look at these patterns, we do it just to try to get an idea. Okay, well, what are the possibilities? Where could we be headed? That way, when whatever does happens, you're at least mentally prepared for it because you recognize it as a strong possibility. So one possibility, of course, is that we just move sideways. And when I say move sideways, I mean it could go as high as 14K and as low as 12K, and I would still more or less consider this just business as usual, moving sideways. Okay, this is one possibility. And by the way, this is a good possibility, or this would probably be the best scenario for altcoins. So if you're wanting to speculate on altcoins, moving sideways in the immediate future would be really bullish for altcoins, okay? So the other possibility is, of course, I mean, right, there's three possibilities. We either go up, down, or sideways. So the sideways possibility would likely be good for altcoins just because Bitcoin is significantly above the 20-week moving average, right? So moving in this regime, good for altcoins. If it moves up to 14K in the short term, then then this would mean while altcoins will probably bleed against Bitcoin in the short term. But if it if it just slowly moves around in this regime, then altcoins will probably do quite well. Now, if we come back down, it's not necessarily the end of the world, because even if we come back down to, let's say we go back down to 12K, let's say we go back down to this regime down here, we still have a chance of holding this level of support, and this is a somewhat of a key level considering it was our prior local top. Noticing that this was our local top here, ended up being our support there. This is our new local top. If it is, maybe this will end up being support if we drop back down to it. So if we drop back down to 12K, I would still consider this more or less moving sideways. Nothing really too out of the ordinary. What you always need to be careful of, though, is a drop to the 20-week, okay? Now, if we do drop to the 20-week, let's see where the 20-week currently is. So at the present time, if we put the 20-week on here, the 20-week moving average is currently at $10,600. So $10,600 is where the 20-week moving average currently is, which means that the price at the present time is 17% or so above the 20-week moving average, maybe around that's how much it is if we measure it that way. If we go below, if we go from here and go up, you can see that the price is approximately 21% higher than the 20-week moving average. Okay, so a pretty healthy lead on the 20-week moving average. But remember, the 20-week moving average is going to be moving up every week. It's going to be moving up by $100 to $200 probably, and so we need to be cognizant of this change. So the bull market support line does change every single week, and you need to be aware of this. So in this scenario, right, even if we come back down here, altcoins could still do okay, but if we do get back down into, say, this regime over here, where we're only like 5 to 10% above the 20-week moving average, right, if we're in this regime right here, so, especially if we go back down to 11K, if we go back down to 11K to like 11.5, you definitely want to be cautious with altcoins, because when we get close to the 20-week, remember what happens, right? Remember what happens. This is where altcoins bleed. Okay, this is where altcoins bleed against Bitcoin. This is where altcoins bleed against USD, typically speaking. Not all altcoins and not all the time, but the market as a whole, the Bitcoin dominance would likely go up if Bitcoin were to drop back to the 20-week moving average. So the next thing I want to address is the elephant in the room, right? And that is the idea of, and people talk about this quite frequently. Obviously, I talk about it on the channel some because I'm a proponent of lengthening cycles. And this does not change anything, of course, this recent price movement. This is actually still well within our regression band, and I think this is pretty much just business as usual. However, with that said, if you are a strong proponent of the 4-year cycle, and you are hoping to see a $100,000 Bitcoin next year, maybe in 12 months, 13 months or so, and you're looking, okay, well, what needs to happen, right, for us to have a realistic chance to get there? Well, what would need to happen would be, well, Bitcoin needs to get to a sustainable 20K in the next few months, right? So if that were, if we were to do something like that, well, then the price, obviously it can correct a few times, right, and still remain on track. But let's suppose that by March, so by the end of the first quarter, Bitcoin, the price of Bitcoin should be in that area. Okay, so this would be if you think there's a good chance of the 4-year cycle. The price of Bitcoin at the very least, in my opinion, of course, needs to be up in this up in this area, right? So that's where it would need to be. And by the way, if you look at the last market cycle, if you're measuring it month to month, which I know a lot of people do, if you're looking at, say, October, recognizing there was a pretty nice move here, Bitcoin actually hit the prior all-time high well, this is not the BLX, but this was the prior, up here was the prior all-time high. It actually hit it the very beginning of January. Okay, so if things were to repeat identically, which, I mean, obviously they probably wouldn't repeat identically, but if they were to repeat identically, then maybe we would see Bitcoin make a move to 20K in by January. And if that were to happen, I mean, that would be somewhat insane because it means that the price has to do something like this and then wick all the way up to 20K. And then if it were to continue to repeat, it would actually come back down, maybe go back up, come back down, and then break through and continue on. This will be a very bullish scenario for Bitcoin. Now, I think it will take a little bit longer than that, right? I'm more of along the lines of these different levels of slowly building up support on the way back up. So I don't know exactly where they'll be, but maybe, between approximately 8 and 10, 10 and 12, 12 and 14, 14 and 16, 16 and 18, So something like this. Basically these stepping stones to a prior local top, right? Or the prior all-time high. And what that would mean, right, of course, was, well, we might go up and we might go down in these regions, but then we move sideways some, maybe establish support on the 20-week occasionally, and then just continue going up. So something like that, right? And we might have a long period of time where we do move sideways. And then eventually we would get to the prior all-time high of $20,000. Now, my contention for getting to the prior all-time high of 20K has been historically the fourth quarter of 2021 at the earliest to maybe the first quarter of 2022. So generally that 6-month time frame. So either October, November, December of 2021 or January, February, March of 2022 for a sustainable 20K. And again, it does not mean that we can't come up to 20K prematurely and then come back down. Okay, this is a possibility. So if you do see us go to 20K, I would not necessarily say that means that we're going to blast through it and continue on up to 100K in the near term. What we would need to see would be a sustainable 20K. And remember, the last market cycle, we actually got above 20K. It took us 3 times, or sorry, not 20K, the prior all-time high, close to 1100, we got above it 3 separate times before it held as support. So it's probably going to be a fight one way or another. Where, if we do hit 20K, let's say in next summer or something, there's a good chance it would not hold, and that we would have to test it a few more times before we finally hold it as support. And then once we hold that as support, that is where I think the price of Bitcoin can really start to pick up steam and start moving up rather quickly. And instead of looking at 1,000-day moves, right, or moves of $1,000 in a day as like a upper limit, there's probably going to be times during the next market cycle at the peak where we might see Bitcoin go up $10,000 in a day, right? I mean, if you're going from 90K to 100K, that's not as significant of a move as going from, say, 10K to 20K. It's all about percentages, of course. And so this is generally what I see happening, a slower move up. If you are more optimistic, that's fine, right? Of course it's fine. Just recognize that it might not move quite as quickly as it did last market cycle. I think it will take slightly longer, but of course there's rooms for arguments on both sides, right? I'm not gonna sit here and say you can't make an argument for it, but in my opinion, of course the evidence is pointing towards something more like this. So let me know what you guys think. Do you think Bitcoin will hit 20K in the next, say, either this quarter or next quarter, or do you think it'll take longer? And when I say hit 20K, I should say, do you think it'll reach a sustainable 20K within either this quarter or next quarter, or do you think it'll be sometime later on in the market cycle? Let me know what you guys think in the comments section below, and we'll continue to provide updates every step of the way. Remember, a move down to 12K is still business as usual. A move up to 14K or a move up to 14K in the short term would certainly it would be getting heated. The price of Bitcoin would certainly be really moving up into some very bullish waters, somewhat bubble-ish waters as well, if it were to do something like that in the short term. So again, I would just say remain level-headed. We'll continue to follow the prices here and see what happens. and see if we can sustain this level, and maybe at the very least move sideways within this 12 to 14K regime, right? But remember, always be prepared for the 20 week, right? The 20 week's not going anywhere. It's going to be there throughout a bull market. And right now, it's at 10,600. So that's the number you need to keep in the back of your head. Thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you like the content. Give the video a thumbs up. Check out the Telegram channel in the description below. And we do have the premium list at intothecryptoverse.com. That'll wrap it up for this video, and I'll see you next time. Bye.